Welcome back, everybody, to the One-on-Ones podcast on the Field of 12 Media Network, presented by Bet River Sportsbook. Now, we are bringing you episode 9. Yes, what's on your mind? Discussing what's going on in Atlanta college football. Now, I'm Harry Douglas, your boy, and I'm joined by my dog, Coty Sensabaugh. But Coty, let's go ahead and start with these Georgia Bulldogs. I want to start with the number one team in the country, man, who didn't disappoint its fan base this weekend, nor did they disappoint Kirby Smart, their head coach, beating the 11th ranked Kentucky Wildcats 30-13. But my dog, how good is this UGA team?
Man, I'm gonna put it simple and frank. They the real damn deal. They front seven is one of the top front sevens that I've seen in college football. And anytime you can hold the number 13 team, I think they was at the time, to 1.7 yards per rush, you're gonna dominate a lot of people. But the interesting part for me that I enjoyed most seeing from Georgia was the fact that you kind of seen their quarterback getting a rhythm. He threw for 250 yards, had 3 TDs. That was good to see because he showed that they can win in other ways outside of their defense. I mean, hell, their defense has been dominant all year, and I think they will continue to be that. But the fact that he was able to put up those numbers shows what they're capable of, big picture-wise. But I think they're the best team in the country. I don't think it's close. Give me your opinion on it.
Now, listen, I love this team, man. I love what they're made of. They have a 3-headed. I'm going to get to the defense in a second, but I love what they have offensively, right? They have a starting quarterback who they expected who was going to be the man this year coming to the season, JT Daniels. He's not back right now, but he's going to be back. But not only that, they have a solid backup in Stetson Bennett. So you have 2 solid guys that if your number 1 guy goes down, you have confidence that your backup, your number 2 guy, is going to get the job done. And we've seen it the last 3 or 4 games out of Stetson Bennett. Mm-hmm. Secondly, they are 3 deep in the backfield with Zamir White, James Cook, and Milton. They're 3 deep. And the like third
Nick
thing.
Chubb, Todd Gurley, and what was the other guy that they had?
Was it Moreno? It wasn't Sean, was it?
Nah, he was before them. What's the other guy? Damn. TG, Nick Chubb, and it's another one. I would have to look it up. Man.
I can't remember myself.
But
either.
They had 3 of them boys back then. And they doing the same damn thing now.
and they ready. And their offensive line, man, their offensive line is getting things done. Now I know under Todd Monken, they wanted Todd to come in and, run a little spread thing with the landscape of what college football is getting to. But when your starting quarterback goes down, you got to go back to old school style. Okay, we just gonna punch you in the mouth. We're gonna be physical. We're gonna win a line of scrimmage, and that's what Georgia has done. But Coty, these young men have 3 freshmen. They have 3 freshmen that are playing great football for them right now. A receiver, McConkey. Listen, the man be routing people up. He route people up. A tight end, Brock Bowers, who's doing a great job, and another receiver, Mitchell. Those 3 guys coming along for this Georgia offense has allowed them to put up points. I said last week at halftime, the score was 14-7 versus Kentucky. And I was on the show, and I said, listen, Georgia has to get these tight ends involved. They have too many athletic tight ends, and they just got to get them the football. They came out, Brock Bowers ended up having over 100 yards receiving. Listen, the man can play the game. But now let's jump to that defensive side. You mentioned that front 7, and people talk about this defense being one of the best all time. Listen, when we say all time, it means something because you had those Miami teams that had Vilma, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, Vince Wilfork, all those guys on it. You had that Alabama squad, I think.
Those USC teams.
2011 Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had them USC teams, and then you had a year where you had an LSU team that was making some noise because if they would have had a quarterback, Alabama wouldn't have won the national championship that year. That's the team. I think Tyrann Mathieu was on that one.
And even more recent, showing love to the ACC, you had Clemson.
Clemson, exactly. So when we talk about all time, it's not many teams or many defenses that you could put in that category. But for this Georgia defense, they're in that category because you have big Jordan Davis, if you don't know his numbers, number 99. And then they have big Devontae Wyatt. Right. They had Nakobe Dean. They have Walker. They have Smith. Listen, they have Adam Anderson. You know what? It's damn Baskin Robbins. All flavors. How you want it? Because they got that many guys on their defense. And for me, man, when I look at them playing against these teams, and I'm like, even if Georgia does struggle offensively, their defense is just so damn good that it's not gonna matter because their defense, they can count on their defense is gonna hold them afloat until the offense can actually get right. Now, we talking about this. I'm trying to think who can compete with Georgia in the college football landscape. If you're looking at all the teams right now, who is one team? And if there's two, tell me two. But I think I have two in mind that could potentially, I think, hang with Georgia. I said potential. They have potential. I didn't say they was. I said they have potential. And for me, it's Alabama, and they're going to get the opportunity to do that in the SEC championship game, and Ohio State, because Ohio State has two solid running backs. They have a nice quarterback. They have three receivers. They have two tight ends that are solid and a nice offensive line. So those are the two teams in my mind right now that I think that can, I'm not saying beat Georgia, but give them a run for their money because their offenses.
Right.
Who do you have in mind?
That's a simple question, but it's also a tough question because Georgia is that damn good. But I'm going to keep it a beam, bro. I think Alabama is the only team that got a chance.
I like it.
I think as we've seen first week of the season, I think we've seen Clemson have a chance. But I think that game was an anomaly because you continue to see Georgia rise and get better. And you've seen Clemson get better in stints, but not consistently better. And Clemson's dealt with a lot of injuries. So while Georgia is ascending, I think Clemson is, you know what I'm saying? It's not a lot of jump, but it's not a lot of down either. It's just kind of, they're a mediocre team.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say if anybody, Alabama. And the only reason why I say Alabama is because of who their coach is. And he is the mentor to Georgia's coach. That's the only thing I think Alabama has going for them. But at the end of the day, one thing you know about Alabama is they're always going to compete and they're going to be ready. And it's funny because them and Georgia is assembled damn near the same. They're like a carbon copy of each other. And that's the only reason why I think they have a chance. But man, the way Georgia's playing, bro, like I said earlier, that front seven, bro, being honest, being a defensive back guy, I don't know how good Georgia's secondary is. I don't. And that's not a knock on those young men, but they just don't get much action. Like we was just talking about Clemson. The year Clemson had Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Cleveland Farrell, and Austin Bryant. They had a good secondary. They had Trayvon Mullen, AJ Terrell, all those guys who were doing their thing now in the NFL, but they didn't get much opportunity because those guys up front were always making tackles for loss and sacks. They didn't get much action. And I think Georgia's experiencing that now. I would love to be a corner for Georgia right now because if you don't give up the deep ball, you good. You good. Like you literally just have to play the deep ball. And being honest with you, you don't have to play it that much because the pass rush is going to get there. Pass rush and coverage goes hand in hand. And Georgia is as dominant as can be. And what I like about them, they don't give a damn who they playing. They play to their standard. It don't matter who they playing. They play to their standard, and their standard is dominating football. And it's a beautiful thing to see. You don't see them trying to trick people. You don't see them trying to do too much. Their coaches are putting their players in position to win, and their players are executing. And they got dogs all over the field.
Here we are, mano y mano. We ain't trick fucking nobody. Listen, we want to see, are you the big bad wolf? We know we the big bad wolf. We want to see if you the big bad wolf too.
Right. It's no fair dodging. And I take it back to a statement that John Gotti said, the famous gangster. He said, everybody a gangster till some gangsters walk in the room. That's really what type of time Georgia's on. Everybody's a dog until we walk into the room. The closest game they've had is Clemson.
Yep. And they wasn't even developed as a team at that moment too.
Like they knew they was dogs, but they didn't know they was dogs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. And that was kind of confirmation for them in my eyes because I was at that game and I seen it up close and personal. But ever since that game, they've just continued to get better. And it's like, damn, if they keep on this path, what are they going to be come into the season? You know what I'm saying? Because you can tell they're focused. You can tell they're locked in. You can tell they want it. You can tell they're all going after one mission. They don't care who get the shine because they understand when we win, it's enough for everybody because that means a lot of people is making plays.
And when people make plays, you win, you become a number one team in the country. That means every NFL scout, every NFL head coach, every NFL GM and owner is looking at your team. And if you are mediocre, they might be looking at you and thinking that you decent because you on the number one team in the country and y'all playing team ball and y'all efficient week in and week out.
And as a rotational player in a situation like that, all you have to do is make one or two plays when you get in, because they like, damn, he's showing flashes.
Yep.
He's behind this guy. So imagine what he's going to do when he gets the same role that this guy gets. You know what I'm saying? It just looks good for everybody, man. And kudos to Kirby Smart, because damn it, he's doing it the right way.
He is. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for Bet Rivers yet, now's the time, because they're offering $250 match bonus for your first deposit. Now, what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Play Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, more reliable. With football season kicking off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older to do so. But if you have a gambling problem, make sure you please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, we talked about UGA, the number one team in the country. Now, I want to get to a quarterback who had the opportunity this week to be in a starting role for the Oklahoma Sooners. Yes, Caleb Williams took the job of Spencer Rattler.
You spoke on that last week.
Preseason favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, no longer the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy because his job is gone. All Caleb Williams did this weekend versus TCU, number one, they beat him 52-21, but he went 18 for 23, 295 yards, four tubs. But not only that, 9 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. And when we talked about this last week, I said, first of all, Lincoln Riley would be crazy as hell if he didn't start him. He would be crazy. And number two, one of the things we talked about, how when he came into the Texas game, it opened up the run game for Oklahoma that has been non-existent. Well, let's talk about that run game for Oklahoma against TCU. Caleb Williams is your quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. You got to account for him. Kennedy Brooks had 20 carries, 153 yards, and a touchdown. So it's simple for me. And what I love about this is that I'm glad Lincoln Riley seen it. I'm glad he's seen it and he made the decision. But now when it comes to the committee, they're going to have to judge this Oklahoma football team off of Caleb Williams being their starting quarterback, not Spencer Rattler. So I think that's going to be a positive for Oklahoma, on top of a lot of people losing, because that's helping Oklahoma as well. But that's going to be something that the committee looks at, and probably it's going to work in their favor because Caleb Williams has given them a new life.
You would like to think so, and man, us being former professional athletes and making it to that highest level, we understand the importance and the meaning behind availability is the best ability. As an athlete, you can't take a single day off, a single rep off, nothing off, because there may be a guy behind you that's just as good as you, if not better than you, and all he's waiting for is the opportunity to get his chance. You mentioned it. Rattler was a Heisman hopeful, one of the top candidates coming into the season. And now he's talking about transferring. And we not even halfway through the season yet. How crazy is that? But it just goes to show you, man, you got to do your job, man. You got to do your job. And when you get the opportunity, you got to go out there and execute. Because I had a coach tell me a long time ago, every single day is an interview in this business. And if that's not the truth, and you were spot on last week when you said Lincoln Riley would be bananas to not start Caleb Williams. Now you look like a genius because it's not even a question now who's the leader of that team.
Yeah.
And you got to give it up to Caleb Williams, the true freshman from Washington, D.C., because if I'm not mistaken, he's the first freshman quarterback to start at OU since 1990. That's 31 years. And I don't know what these young men are doing coming out of high school, but some of them just step foot on campus. They ready. Like, that's crazy. And I think back to when I came out in 2007, I literally needed 2, maybe 3 years before I was mentally and physically ready. And these young men are coming in. A lot of them are coming in at 17, going to campus early. And it's just a beautiful sight to see, man. But I think sky's the limit for Oklahoma with that young man, unless they face Georgia. But that's a whole different story. But you got to give it up for Oklahoma, man. And I think you really got to give it up for Lincoln Riley, because the talent that he's not only developing while he's there, but the success they're having in the NFL, like, you got to give it up for him. Like, Kyler Murray right now, in my opinion, is the front runner for the MVP. You know, people could say different things, but when you look at him, when you look at Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, like, all of those guys are doing well. And they all have come out, in the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken?
I think 3 or 4.
3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Spencer Rattler, I'm sure he'll get a chance. No matter what happens the rest of this year, he will get a chance moving forward because of his previous resume. But damn it, this young man, Caleb Williams, we already see what he's about. So if he can keep progressing and improving, man, sky's the limit. And if I was a quarterback, I'm going to OU, because it's proven. They're not only winning Heismans and going number 1, but they're having success in the NFL. And what else can you ask for?
Now, when you talk about Oklahoma, I look at their schedule, right? They have Kansas left. They have Texas Tech, a game that I circled for them, 3 games actually. Mm-hmm. Baylor, they still have Baylor, and Baylor's playing some damn good football right now under head coach Dave Aranda and their quarterback Bohannon. And then they have Iowa State, which Iowa State's been on the shaky land so far this year, but Oklahoma State they have in that rivalry game the last of the year. Oklahoma State still undefeated. Yes, now, that posed me to ask this question: who is the real number 2 team in the country? And I say that because Iowa was ranked number 2 last week, but Iowa lost to Purdue. And a lot of people going into this game, when I tried to tell them, I told people on multiple occasions that Iowa they're just well coached and they do things the right way. But I didn't think they were athletic. I didn't think they can play in space. And they created turnovers. And I said on another show, I said, the only great thing that Iowa does is create turnovers. They do nothing else great. And Purdue went out there and showed that, beating that team 24-7. But what blew my mind is that Purdue has a wide receiver, and the head coach for Purdue, Jeff Brom, was my quarterback coach at Louisville, and the offensive coordinator, Brian Brom, was my quarterback at Louisville. So I understand their offense and know what they want to do. They want to pass the football, right? So Purdue has a wide receiver, a stud now, David Bell. Mm-hmm. David Bell has done nothing but kill Iowa his entire career. Mm-hmm. David Bell in that game had 11 catches for 240 yards and a touchdown. So I'm thinking to myself, why would Iowa not come into this football game and say, okay, we're going to take your option 1 away. Let me see how else you can beat me. Mm-hmm. And that blows my mind. And then the quarterback for Purdue, he had a good day, man. O'Connell, he went 30 for 40, 375 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he played well. And I asked Coach Braun, man, what was one of the things that you told your football team? And I asked David Bell as well after the game. He said, man, Coach Braun really stressed on not turning the football over, taking care of the football, because if you take care of this football, your chances of winning this game is going to be sky high.
Yeah, man. And we was talking about this before we went on air, but man, I got to give you your flowers, because playing with you as a football player and then doing this with you, it just shows that your greatness is in everything you do. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And I just want to salute you and give you your flowers. And I told you before, you're the hardest working man in show business, in this TV industry. For anybody that don't know or don't follow you, just follow your Twitter, follow your Instagram, and you'll see that this man is the hardest working man. He's either on a flight, he's waking up early, he's staying up late, he's doing everything it takes to be successful in this industry. But when I tell you your takes are spot on, it's crazy, because 7 days ago, you said the exact same thing. You said the only reason Iowa is good is because they don't beat themselves. Well, guess what? They beat themselves and they got their ass whooped. Anytime you throw 4 interceptions, it's a wrap. Like, you can't beat nobody. And going back to what you said about Purdue's offense and their receiver, I cringe hearing that, because his resume against you guys is what it is. How do you step into that arena, that field, and let one guy beat you? Anytime you let a receiver go for 240 yards, that blows my mind, because at some point as a coach, you have to take your pride and throw it out and say, we're either going to put 2 people on this guy or put 3 people on him, and we're not going to let him beat us at some point. At some point. And I compare that to Devontae Adams with the Packers. Anytime the Packers step in the stadium, you know who Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball to. It's not a question. If you look at DeAndre Hopkins, his last couple years in Houston, hell, majority of his career in Houston when he wasn't with Andre Johnson,
Yep.
you know who they're throwing it to. Don't let this one guy beat you, because guess what? They're that damn good that they can beat you by themselves. So as a former defender and defensive back, I cringe hearing that, because it goes back to what we're talking to. The coaches aren't giving these young men a chance to win. They're setting them up for failure, because I'll tell you one thing, if that was Kirby Smart or Nick Saban, he's taking them out of the game. They're not going to let your top priority
Bro,
beat.
I'm going to take it here. Let me tell you some of the things I've seen from Bill Belichick. When we had Tony Gonzalez on our football team, Bill Belichick decided that we're going to put 2 linebackers over Tony Gonzalez and vice him like they on the punt return, like on their punt return team, and not even let him off the line of scrimmage. Right. If I see somebody, and okay, you didn't double him going into the game, that's fine. But if I see him making all these catches, we got to adjust something. I can't let him off the line of scrimmage. I just can't. Them boy, what they do to Megatron? What the Saints did to Megatron down by that goal line?
Viced him like he was a gem, like he was a gunner. Think about it, bro. You are in the Louisville Hall of Fame, right? You played 10 years in the NFL, right?
Yep.
What's the most yards you've ever had in a game?
Ooh. Oh, I told some up too. I'd have had 200 yarders.
But you see what I'm saying?
Like, and let me tell you, let me tell you how crazy it was. So one of them was against Kentucky, our rival. And my boy, me and Wesley Wood, you talk about this all the time. He said, I can't believe we went into that damn game and we told our best corner that he was gonna match you the whole game, and you gave him 200 plus. I said, I thought it was disrespectful. I thought it was disrespectful. You're gonna send one man to guard me the entire game. I'm gonna kill this damn draft stock. I'm killing this draft stock. Coty, I'm killing this damn draft stock. You gonna disrespect me? I'm gonna disrespect him. I'm gonna kill that draft stock.
Bro, God's honest truth. This is a personal story about me. Okay, so I get drafted by the Tennessee Titans. This is my 4th year. DeAndre Hopkins, who I went to school with, got drafted to the Houston Texans. He came in the year after me. We were in school 2 years together, and we played each other in the AFC South 3 years because he came in the year after me. My final year, mind you, this was his first All-Pro season, I think. The last game of the season, or the second to last game, because you play division opponents like those last 2 out of 3 weeks. We went into the game, and my head coach, I don't want to say his name, but he's no longer a head coach anymore. And my defensive coordinator at the time is no longer coaching in the league. I love those guys to death, but I feel like they set me up for failure. And I knew that going into it. But
my dog said, I knew.
But your pride and everything, you would compete. You a dog, you gonna fight. We went into that game and they told me straight up, you got Hopkins one-on-one the whole game. Now, mind you, I know this guy, went to school with him, love him to death. I can't guard him one-on-one, because guess what? When he's one-on-one, I don't care who it is, he's open.
Bro, all you got to do is put the ball around him. He's so long and his hand's so big. Like, you just got to put the ball around him.
And I knew I wasn't tripping when after the game, one of my closest friends that I've met through football and that I'm still close with, Kareem Jackson, was a safety for the Houston Texans at the time. And God is my witness. He came up to me after the game and he said, bro, you need to fight your D coordinator for what he did to you today. I said, bro, he was tripping. He said, bro, our whole offense is throwing the ball to 10. Why do they have you covering him one-on-one? You know where it's going. And like I said, this was his first All-Pro season. I want to say he had 12 to 13, 1,400 yards. He had over 100 catches. He had over 10 touchdowns. Like, you know where it's going. They don't have a running game. I think I seen him say something yesterday where he's had 20 quarterbacks throw to him in his career or something like that. Houston, they had a cycle of
that's the crazy thing.
Quarterbacks. And I just look back on that moment and that's like, damn, like, don't let pride beat you. You know what I'm saying? When you step into a stadium, You respect everybody. You don't fear nobody, but you respect everybody. But don't let your pride beat you. And you see that happening over and over and over. But back to you, it is so hard to go for 200 yards because not only do you have to have the targets, you have to catch the ball and you have to make the plays. You have to have a lot of things go in your favor. There's a million receivers that can go for 200 yards, but it's so hard to do because things have to fall into place.
Yep.
The fact that they let this man go for 200 yards and he's been busting their ass his whole career, it's like, come on, you stealing.
Blew my mind. In his entire career, he's had over, I think, 320 yards receiving, and I believe like 5 touchdowns. and you let this man get off.
It's crazy, bro.
But I mean, that's Iowa being Iowa. But I knew it was going to happen sooner or later because I actually thought they should have lost. They should have lost to Penn State the week before. If their quarterback doesn't go out, then they actually lose that football game.
Support for today's episodes of One-on-Ones comes from Manscaped, the world leader in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped has just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. It's a sleek, well-designed, and precision-engineered trimmer, and I got to tell you, I was blown away by the performance. Listen, fellas, when I was in college, I had a bad experience trying to trim my hairs, and I used a razor and actually got cut. So don't be like me. Get you a Manscaped and get right. The way that Manscaped engineered the ultimate growing and body trimmer was simple. They focused on intelligent functionality and providing a comfortable grooming experience. The Lawnmower 4.0 was developed with their trademark skin-safe technology, which includes a cutting-edge ceramic blade that reduces snags and nicks. You need to be confident in any tool you use on your family jewels. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 4000K LED spotlight, an attachment that allows you to change the length of your trim, and a wireless charger. Most importantly, you want to make sure you're not using the same trimmer on your nuts in your face. That's just nasty. So head on over to manscaped.com where you will get 20% off and free shipping with the code ONE. That's ONE. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com if you use the code ONE. As a user of the Lawnmower 4.0, trust me when I say your balls will thank you.
But who do you think right now is the real, forget the rankings, because I understand the rankings have Cincinnati ranked as number 2, and that's nothing against Cincinnati, but I want to know, who do you think is the real number 2 team in the country right now?
Alabama Crimson Tide.
Okay. See,
I
knew I wasn't crazy.
They had that hiccup a couple weeks ago, but the way Georgia is put together, I think Alabama is the only team that can match that as far as speed, physicality, smarts, like everything that Georgia is. I think Alabama is the only team that can match that. Those teams in the Big Ten, no disrespect to Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, none of them, I don't think they have enough speed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, whoever it may be in the Big 12, I think they're still called. Is that what they still going by?
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough physicality. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing with the SEC. The SEC is just different, bro. Like, they're just different. They're big, they fast, they strong. Like, they got it all. Like, I feel like every conference has 1 or 2 things that may separate them. The top teams in the SEC, they got it all.
Yeah.
They got it all. Like, you can look at them young men walk out the tunnel, you'd be like, damn, what are they eating? You know what I'm saying? So
well, you make sense, because like when I look at the Big Ten, like I actually think the Big Ten this year, Big Ten might be the best conference because they have 5 teams ranked in the top 11, but within the next 4 or 5 weeks, they got to play each other. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. Somebody's gonna be the odd man out because they got to play each other over and over again. Iowa sitting on the other side. The only hard game they have left right now is Nebraska. That's the only hard game they like. So we know Iowa's gonna make it on their side. But when I look at the Big Ten, I'm like, okay, and you look at those teams, they either have 2 things, but not 3. They either have 1 thing, but not, you know what I mean? When you talk about all phase, offense, defense, special teams, I don't see a team that has a solid defense, a solid offense, and a solid special teams. But they have guys that can play the game of football in the Big Ten. And the only reason why I said Ohio State early on that I feel like they can compete, definitely not defensively. I ain't talking about defensively. Even though like the first 3 games of the year, they gave up over 80 points in the first 3 games. The last 3, I think it's under 40, but still they haven't played nobody in the last 3 really. So when I look at Ohio State, but I look at them offensively, they have 2 guys in their receiver group who's going in the first round. They have a 3rd receiver in Jigba who can ball out. They have a freshman running back in Henderson, Travion Henderson, who's coached by a guy that I'm really close with, man, who is the real deal, who's going to be a top guy being picked when it's his turn to come around. So they have the skill people to hold up with a Georgia. You know what I mean? But defensively, I don't think they have that. But when you look at Bama, I think Bama can do it offensively, defensively, and on special teams when it comes to that point.
And the thing about Georgia that really jumps off the screen at me is we all know the game of football right now, it's a game about space. On offense, it's about making somebody miss in space. And on defense, it's about grabbing somebody in space. What makes Georgia so good? They controlling the trenches. And don't get it mistaken. If you control the trenches on both sides, you got a chance. And if they're
you got a chance, you got a damn good chance.
Because we know what their running backs is working with. I've seen them punish Clemson's defense. And Clemson has a pretty solid defense. But I've seen those running backs wear Clemson's defense down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So who do you think is number 2 team?
I think Bama. I think it's Bama. No disrespect to Cincinnati
nobody.
at
That's
all.
no disrespect to nobody.
But if I had to pick right now, my top 5, I will go with Georgia's 1. I will go with Bama's 2. Number 3 for me, and because they're undefeated still, I will go Oklahoma because of Caleb Williams and what I think he can do. My 4 would be Ohio State, and my 5 would be Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah. And for the listeners out there, just so we on the same page, when we say who we feel is the number 2 team, we're saying who we think can match up and give the number 1 team a best chance. Just so we're clear.
Yep. So I have, and a lot of people in Cincinnati gonna be mad at me, but
they can get over it.
but when I watch Cincinnati, and I love some of the guys they have defensively. I love Gardner in the secondary. I love Sanders, right? And then I love their quarterback Desmond Ridder. But I think the most important person on Cincinnati's football team is their running back Jerome Ford. And I asked somebody this week, and I said, you take Jerome Ford away from that offense.
What do they have?
What receiver? Now they have one that's coming along. He's coming along. Okay, he's coming along. But who your big play guy you going to, right? When in doubt, when things hit the fan, who is the guy that you're going to? Not to mention they should have, and I don't like to do the shoulda, coulda, woulda, but they should have lost to Indiana. If it wasn't for a bad ejection call on a 3rd down play that put their offense in a 4th down, and Indiana was getting that football back probably at their 40-yard line. That game may be a total different story. So I got Cincinnati at 5, and no, I don't feel apologetic about it. Number 4, I have Ohio State. 3 is Oklahoma. 2 is Alabama, and 1 is Georgia.
And to touch on that one step further before we go to the next topic, speaking about Cincinnati, if your best option, or not best option, if your number 1 option and your bread and butter is the run game, good luck against playing Georgia, because football is all about matchups. What do you do well and what do they do well? Yep. You may run the ball well, but damn it, they stop in the run at a rate that I haven't seen before. I would have to go back and look at this.
Well, let me say this. It's just for people to understand. Coming into this football game last week, Kentucky, Georgia, Kentucky was one of the top teams in the country rushing the football. Right? They had a running back that was top. They had a running back that was, I think if I'm not mistaken, top 12, top 15 in rushing, and Chris Rodriguez Jr. Guess how many yards he had on Saturday? 7. The man had 7 yards on Sunday against the Georgia Bulldogs. On Saturday, excuse me. I'm up here thinking about NFL.
And I go back to week 1, and I remember watching the Georgia Clemson game, and I was like, damn, why did Clemson give up on the run so early? I think you remember me saying that. But now that I'm seeing how Georgia's playing, it's a no-brainer. Ain't nobody running on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think our listeners, or maybe they do, I don't want to discredit nobody, but like, Do you understand 1.7 yard per carry? That's unheard of.
Shit, I'm gonna take my chances throwing that shit out there on the way. Listen, you know what? Remember what the Dallas Cowboys did against Tampa Bay the first week of the season on a Thursday night?
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay, we're gonna play on the perimeter. I don't know why, but I don't know why college teams don't take the same approach playing Georgia, because you're not gonna run the football on them. So I have to play on this perimeter to give myself a chance offensively. Right now, I'm gonna make these big. I'm gonna go no huddle. I'm gonna make these big boys sweat. I'm gonna make these big boys tired. I'm not gonna allow Kirby Smart to sub them in and out. I'm not gonna sub. I'm gonna keep my personnel in the game so they can't sub. And that's the best way to stop a pass rush, and the best way to get people that has a great defensive line breathing heavy is no huddle, change the snap count, screens, getting the football out quickly. I'm not running right at them.
You got to make them run sideline to sideline. You're not about to punch them in the mouth. It's not happening. No. And it's not being fearful, but it's respecting what is a fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be honest with yourself. And I definitely don't believe Cincinnati has a chance because, like you mentioned, bread and butter is running the ball. And that's no knock on them, but the way Georgia is stuffing the run, I would like to look at a stat and see what's their most explosive run given up this year. And I guarantee you it's not over 25 yards.
I'm up, man. You know what? After we get done, I'm gonna look it up. Because
I guarantee you there's
I'm interested now.
I guarantee you there's not one individual all year that's had a rush for over 25 yards against them. I guarantee you.
I don't put it past. Now let's keep it moving, man. The next team I want to talk about, I'm gonna talk about them really quick though. Is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's in the Big 12, and they are actually still undefeated. And their quarterback, Spencer Sanders, he has to play better. But they have another young phenom running back by the name of Jaylen Warren. This young man had 33 carries for 193 yards.
Tell him how many he had in the second half.
I don't remember how many was in the second half.
154 of those yards.
Oh, he had 154 in the second?
If that ain't a Derrick Henry,
oh my gosh.
Like, that's exactly what Derrick Henry does. And they showed that the other night on Monday night against the who they play? The Bills. I played against Derrick Henry. What makes him so great is he gets stronger as the game goes on. And that's exactly what that young man, Jaylen Warren, did. First of all, 193 yards on the ground is toting the pill. He looked like Forrest Gump.
What? 150 in the second half?
150 in the second half. Yeah, man.
I don't know how I missed that.
They punished him. They
and it was cool because too, like, he was going up against Texas Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, he had a good game. He had over 100, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he had a receiving touchdown as well. So he had 3 total touchdowns. But to see those 2 running backs, man, go at it like that in that game was dope. And when I watch games, Coach, I'll probably be watching 6 at the same time. I'll be watching 6 games at the same time.
The hardest working man in the industry, man. I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm standing on that.
I have all kind of notes over notes. You know, when you're watching all them games, you know you can't write straight in your notebook. So you just writing, you're writing and circling, and you're trying to underline and put stars really quick. You're writing without looking. But I love what college football is bringing to the world right now, man. The parity is unbelievable. But I'm looking forward to it. Both of these teams, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, can stay undefeated. Yes, I'm looking forward to them playing the last game of the season.
Yes, sir.
In rivalry week. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, the last thing go ahead.
I don't mean to stop you, but I want to hear your perspective, and I want you to give our listeners a perspective on this. Okay. Texas, the last 2 weeks, to me, Texas, the last 2 weeks, from my POV, have been playing for the clock to run out and the game to be over and not stay in attack mode. As a offensive player, tell me about that. What does that make you feel? How do you look at that?
I don't like it at all. I felt like I can remember games right now. Boy, I want to mention them so bad, but I don't want to put people on blast. National Football League, where we done it. I don't like that concept at all because I believe in burying my opponent. I don't want them to breathe.
Right.
And I don't feel sorry for nobody. So I don't get upset when coaches run the score up on other teams. what I'm getting upset for. That's my job. Your job is to stop me.
Yeah,
If
this
you
ain't
can't
church.
stop me, I don't want to hear it. And you already know, Coty, how my mindset is. Like, I don't believe in being cool with people while we playing the game. Like even if that's what I'm saying. Like, we can be best friends after the game, but while we playing in the game, like, I don't believe in none of that.
Right.
Like, it don't make sense to me. But I don't understand why coaches don't keep the pedal to the metal. But I will tell you, Casey Thompson, this week and last week, I thought that there were throws that he had to make that he did not make.
Right.
And in this game.
That goes into it as well.
Like, because he had an opportunity against Texas. Against Oklahoma, and he didn't make the throws. And then there was a couple of them in this game against Oklahoma State. But I think for Texas, the rest of the season and going into next offseason, the focus is going to have to be finishing. Right? Because right now, Texas should only have one loss on their schedule, and that's to Arkansas, because they just got beat by Arkansas. Yeah. Right. Yes. So Texas, if they just learn how to finish, games, they're probably in the top 10 right now with one loss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the simple fact that they can't finish, they're not. Yep. But I always hate it, man, when even watching games. Coaches don't keep the same approach, and I understand once you get to a certain point in the fourth quarter, that's understandable because you want to run the football and run the clock. But to be doing it in the third quarter or even early in the fourth quarter blows my mind. Keep the pedal to the middle, man. You got to bury your opponent. I'm trying to bury him too. Listen, down the line when I coach, they don't come talking about some, hey man, why you ran the score up on me? I'm gonna tell you, get the hell out of my damn face. and I'm gonna be unapologetic about it.
He's not.
And if you do it, and if somebody ever do it to me, I'm not gonna complain about it. Hell, I'm gonna get on my players. You see that? Don't be talking about some coach, he ran the score up on me. No, you stop their ass from running the fucking score up. Don't be coming to me talking about some coach that's disrespectful, man. They ain't have to do all that. No, I don't want to hear it. It's your job to stop them from scoring. It's my job to put you in the best position to stop them from scoring.
I don't know if you remember this earlier this year. The Ravens was playing the Broncos, and the Ravens had some sort of streak going on of like 100 yards per game on the ground. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the number of times they had did it in a row, but the Broncos tried to throw a touchdown pass in the red zone. It got intercepted. A couple seconds left in the game. The Ravens get the ball back, and they had it made up in their mind, we're still going for this 100 yards because we want to keep this record going. So they ran the ball, and I remember Vic Fangio for the Broncos was pissed. Like, why are y'all running it? That's whatever. He said a whole bunch of stuff. But it's like, it's your job to stop them. And as a defender, I always believe that. Like, fuck what they got going on. It's our job to stop them. No matter how much time is left in the game, it is our job to stop them because that is our job. We all have a job to do. This is not charity.
No.
We got families to feed. You know what I'm saying? So
I always felt the way, bro. We on the same page.
Yes, sir.
We're on the same page. But that's exactly how I felt about it. And I never liked it. The last thing we're gonna get to is an ACC matchup that I think is key. Key because it's not like Clemson's defense is a slouch, but the offense of Pittsburgh is the real deal. They're up there in just about every category when you talk about in college, this landscape of college football, right? They got Pickett as their quarterback, and then they got Addison as their receiver, who's making plays out there left and right. But this is why this matchup for me is intriguing. I think Pittsburgh is favored by 3.5 in this one. And I actually think they're going to win by more than that, but they're favored by 3.5, and the over-under is 46.5. And I'm going with the over in that one because I just think Pittsburgh going to score some points.
Right. They've been doing it all year. You have no other reason to believe anything else.
But this game is significant to me because last year in this matchup, Pickett threw 4 interceptions in this game. In the ACC championship game, I think they met up a while back. Pickett threw for 8 yards in the interception. So I know in his mind, he's like, okay, this is my time. That they down, we're gonna keep them down. You know what I'm saying? We're not feeling sorry for him because they down.
He's not a player that's taking his foot off the gas. I can promise you that.
No.
I don't know him personally, but he looks like the type of player, if the coach is trying to take their foot off the gas, he'll damn check the play in the huddle and keep going at you. That's how it looks from my perspective. Now, I don't know him personally, but he is a dog, and he concerns me.
I can't wait to see this one, bro. I can't wait to see this one because Pittsburgh doesn't have a loss in the ACC
at all.
They don't have a loss in the ACC. I know they're lost to Western Michigan right now. They're probably shitting bricks like, man, we lost to Western Michigan. Mm-hmm. We could be undefeated right now, trying to rep the ACC because you have a guy that people in college football now are starting to talk about at the quarterback position. You have a guy who's one of the top guys in the nation when it comes to touchdowns as a wide receiver that people are talking about. So all those things lined up. So I know they're kicking themselves right now, but the best thing that they can go out and do this week against Clemson, go out there and put about 40, 45 up on Clemson. Everybody will be talking about you again. Go put 45 up on Clemson. Now, in this matchup, you know what I'm getting. In this matchup, Coty, I like Pittsburgh. I'm going with Pittsburgh, baby. I'm going with the Steel City. I'm going with Pittsburgh. Man. Coty, who do you have in this one?
I want to pause for a second. I want to give the University of Pittsburgh and their coaches credit because I think you've said enough about their offense. Everybody knows how great their offense is, but those damn corners for Pittsburgh. When I tell you those young men get up in your face and they force you to throw long foul balls, the other day against Virginia Tech, they kept taking shots, and it was long foul ball. So I want to give credit to those young men, and I'm not going to lie, Pittsburgh as a Clemson fan makes me nervous as hell. One, because of how many points they're averaging per game and how Clemson is struggling to score points. I think for Clemson to have a chance this weekend, they have to put up 30 points. I want to start out with that, and that's being generous because let's not get it twisted.
Bro, why are you making me laugh? Listen, why are you making me laugh?
Because I'm trying to figure out how to word this without Pittsburgh is averaging over 50 points per game. So being generous, I think it'll be a successful day for Clemson's defense if they can hold them to 30 points. I think that'll be a successful game for them. Can the offense score 30 points? I don't know. We'll see. But then, like I said, like I just mentioned, Pitt makes me even more nervous because of their corners. Their corners, they're not giving up nothing. They're in your face and they're suffocating people. So when you add that ability with the type of offense they have and how explosive they are, it's just a recipe for disaster. But with that being said,
lift your head up, Coty. Lift your head up.
You know what's going on, man. I'm riding with Clemson. You know what it is. I'm riding with Clemson, man. I bleed orange. If you cut my arm open right now, orange blood come out. You know who I'm rocking with.
Coty, I'm laughing so hard right now. Coty, you hit him with this right here.
Because you know some of it is pride. A lot of
facts.
A lot of it's pride. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm living and dying by that orange sword. But man, it's gonna be a hell of a game, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. Clemson got their hands full. Yeah. Clemson got their hands full, man. Pitt to me right now is right here neck and neck. North Carolina State to me is the best team.
I think they're gonna win the ACC. Pitt.
To me right now, them and North Carolina State is like right there. You know what I'm saying? Because North Carolina State put on a show last week as well. And speaking of North Carolina State, I want to give it up to my young homie, Devin Boykin, who was the special teams player of the week at the ACC last week with North Carolina State. And crazy story about me and Devin. I've known Devin for like 10 years now. And crazy, I met him at my best friend's football camp when he was in middle school. So wow, I've seen him grow up from middle school to high school to now at the college level. And maybe his last 3 years of high school, he was coming down to South Florida to train in the offseason with us. So to see his growth has been awesome. So I want to give credit to that young man. But yeah, back to Pitt. I think them in North Carolina State, I think they're the best teams. Depending on the day, you could go either way, but
and then you still have Wake Forest that's undefeated, but when you look at those two teams, I don't think Wake Forest can keep up with those two teams.
And that's not a knock on Wake Forest.
No, it's not at all.
That's not a knock. It's not at all. The way Pitt is explosive on offense and the way they can put up points, and then the way North Carolina State's defense is coming along, and then they have that rushing attack. Like, you know what was most impressive to me about North Carolina State's offense?
What?
This past weekend, they did their thing without the running back shining. And that's been their staple all year. So if they get that passing game going, good luck. And,
because they have the receivers. They have them. I think they're like three or four deep in the receiving corps.
And shout out to Emeka Emezi. Shout out to him for becoming NC State's all-time reception leader. He passed one of my former teammates in Pittsburgh, Jalen Samuels, is the all-time leading receiver in that school's history. So congrats to that young man.
Wow, that's dope. There it is, y'all. Episode 9 of the One-on-Ones podcast. Make sure y'all stay tuned for more. Next week, we got episode 10. You might want to listen. That's if you're trying to win.
Yes, sir. Love.